welcome to Stay in Your Lane, the Serial Experiments Lane podcast. Today we're covering Layer 11, Infinography. I am your host, Lokomasi. With me is my co-host, Fefner Masamune.
I can't believe it. I did the Rocket Man joke, I think one episode too early. Anyway, it's been a while since we've recorded. That's the joke. It's been a long, long time since we've recorded Lane.
Alice.
I would like to say, for the record, that Hikoko Ori Idisi, whatever this person on YouTube who said that the guitar do be slaying in the background of episode 11 of Lain, you are correct, and I just want you to know that you are seen.
And Jenner.
Hey, I completely forgot everything that happened this episode, except for, no, I didn't. Alice just reminded me. There's just basically, like, smooth jazz over... Well, we'll get to it. Hi, I'm Gay, and let's all love Lain.
Alright, and our episode opens with no narration again, but instead music. This week's episode is the requisite clip show episode. It takes up the first half of the episode. There is one scene of new animation, which is we get to see Lain walking home with Chisa. May have seen this before. I'm pretty sure we haven't.
Yeah, I don't think
But
we
at the
have.
very least, we're seeing it now.
Pretty sure it hasn't come up before.
It's just kind of a weird thing to finally see. We get to see the one interaction Chisa had with Lain in the real world. We don't hear anything, but it seems fairly normal. They don't, like, stumble upon Ares' corpse or something. So yeah, rather than go through everything that the clip show recaps, I just wanted to point out, in general, the order in which things are recapped is done for a purpose. I don't know the exact purpose of every single thing, but they do play every time that Alice asks Lain if she is okay in a row. She says, "Are you okay, Lain?" 3 times in a row. And I think that is on purpose to show that Alice does care about Lain and is looking after her well-being, because we don't hear anybody else ask that in this clip show, and probably not in this entire series.
It also shows that Alice is a smooth criminal.
I can't help but think about the deny me 3 times bit from, I think it's Matthew. Like, hey, I know you.
That's why there's that rooster crowing in this episode.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear any rooster over being blown away by how fucking groovy the guitar is in the first, 2 minutes of this episode.
How sick the music is.
It fucking
The music in this
rules.
episode kicks ass.
It's so good. For a second, okay, so the first time I watched this episode, I had to make sure that I was, I had tabbed over for a moment. I had to tab back because I thought that I had actually put on an episode of Cowboy Bebop because the music was way too good.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Is this an episode of Serial Experience Lane or fucking Lo-Fi Beats to Study too?
3, 2, 1, let's dissociate into the internet.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's lo-fi beats, it's smooth jazz beats to disassociate and PTSD spiral to.
Yeah, the clip show is just Lane going through all her trauma with good guitar in the background. Hey, you know why the fucking OST has that picture of Lane with a guitar on the cover? That's actually just her in the background. You don't see her, but it's happening.
Lain is writing this song we're hearing about all her trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know too much about drug and drug culture. I know that LSD is, like, associated with certain guitar types of music, like psychedelia. It refers to, like, what you see when you're on acid, but it also refers to a genre of guitar music. And it just makes me wonder, like, I don't ever want to do acid, but if I did, I would watch this episode because I want to know just what the music would do to my brain. My roommate in college tried to induce hallucinations without drugs. I think it was something like he put on white noise through headphones so we couldn't hear anything else, and then, like, cut a ping pong ball in half and tape the halves over his eyes, and that's supposed to make you hallucinate? I don't know, man. Human mind is weird.
It sure is. I studied it.
But yeah. As Fefner alluded to earlier, this episode is canonically Lain going through her memories, trying to remember everything that happened and trying to make sense of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because as an entry into the trilogy of weird-ass animes, this has to have a clip show and justify the clip show's existence. I think of the three, Lane does it the best. Utna and, well, I'll do Ava because Ava only had the one, but Ava was like a 20-minute clip show and then 2 minutes of new action where a lot of things happened. Utna's kind of like that. The last clip show is very much just we put a dramatic thing in our clip show to fuck with the audience. But like the first clip show was actually going through and giving you context to things, and then the second clip show was just the more Nanami
I
hijinks.
kind of wouldn't mind like a
But
non-anime episode in the middle of Lane.
we just get like wacky hijinks with Alice and Reika.
Inexplicably, it is actually just Nanami.
Honestly, it'd be the most normal
I
thing that
lose my
happened.
mind. I'm going back to Atori Academy. Things make more sense there.
Lane's a weirdo who keeps the entire internet in her pencil box.
I do just want to see Nanami just punch Taro in the face, though, just as hard as she fucking can. But yeah, the clip show ends. Actually, before I move past the clip show, did anybody have like a part of the clip show they wanted to comment on? Because like when I first watched this, the three Alice lines of "Are you okay?" back to back just made me realize like I don't think anybody else has asked Lane that, and Alice asked Lane 3 times.
Hmm.
So like, did the clip show help anybody else put their thoughts together like that, or was it just
Um,
me?
well, it is kind of depressing that, when Lane is combing through her memories, it's just all the trauma, but that's just, the show.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what trauma
Either,
does to you.
yeah,
You have a
granted, but
difficult
still.
time thinking of anything outside the trauma, especially if you've been triggered. Like I said, something has triggered her. Probably that creepy guy pretending to be God showing up and fucking with her, and she's spiraling. And when you're
Mm.
basically having a panic attack and spiraling, it's really, really hard to pull yourself out.
Is that really the first time someone just straight up asked her if she was okay?
I can't recall any other time that
Well,
anybody has ever asked her. Like nobody, like in my opinion, and I want to say I was a little bit too harsh with the dad. He's trying, but he just doesn't know what he's doing. But regardless, nobody else really treats Lane with
he's
any
never asked that.
any consistent kindness, like any real consistent kindness, other than
Yeah,
Alice.
yeah. Alice asking Lane if she was okay happens at the beginning of episode 3. I remember this part clearly because the plot was still flowing logically from episode to episode at that time. That's after the incident at the club. They're being questioned by the police, and Alice grabs Lane's hand and asks if she's okay. So like, 3 episodes in, that's kind of early, but it's also just the only time that something like that's happened. I think the third time of Alice asking was like the rooftop scene where Alice says, if we're bothering you, we'll leave. I just wanted you to know we actually did want to be your friends. And Lane's like, oh my god, no, please stay, don't leave, please, dear God, no.
But, yeah,
Um,
I do find it interesting then that, we do at least get one scene that probably happened before, well, definitely happened before the show. We never really got a flashback to, is that, flashback scene. That is the one thing that happened pre-show, and it's not necessarily the only good thing that's happened to Lane, but
I was gonna say like, oh, she's flashing back to all her trauma, but she could flash back to all the good things that happened. Like,
very little Lane exists before the show Lane actually started.
that's also a good point. We see like pre-show Lane, which is something we were concerned about in the earlier episodes. I wasn't sure if Lane existed before the first episode. Any other comments on the clip show before I move on?
Uh, there's like a point in the clip show when the music suddenly goes from smooth jazz to like a bit more intense, and I don't want to use the word upbeat, but like it's not smooth jazz anymore. It changes genre for about what, like 3 4 minutes, and then it goes back to like smooth jazz, but it's kind of disjointed. And I noticed,
Yeah, the
yeah,
the the tempo increases
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
It's faster.
It goes
Sorry,
from
Alice.
so like it goes from a sort of formless blues rock kind of just noodling into an actual groove. It's sort of a shuffle, and
The
It's
the band
really
just
up.
switched from marijuana to cocaine.
Yeah. The shuffle's really off-putting to me, honestly, because it does not fit what is going on the page. Like,
Hmm.
what is happening in front of you as you're listening to this, like Stevie Ray Vaughan bullshit, is just not fitting.
This is a weird pull, but I've been getting into fighting games recently. It reminds me of Balrog's first theme. Balrog slash Mike Bison, internationally known as Boxer from Street Fighter. In every game past Street Fighter 2, his theme has been like a manic, intense, like kind of industrial, I think, theme to demonstrate that he's a ruthless fighter. He'll beat the shit out of you. But in Street Fighter 2, it's just smooth jazz, which does not fit his character at all. And my favorite interpretation of that was like, well, in universe, the character just likes smooth jazz and was playing it diegetically as he beats you within an inch of your life. So, like, I wonder if that's what's happening now with Lain. Did Lain just put this music on as she went through her memories? Is that why it doesn't fit? Is she just listening to it in universe?
I almost want that to be true.
We would the only way we'd know if it was true is if the song suddenly skipped. You just hear Lane go, "Oh wait, no, I don't like this song," and then skip to a new one.
Piss.
Why do we even have that song?
Why do we even have that lever?
Not in the mood for that. Not in the mood for that. Not in the mood for that. Maybe later.
Um, Alice, I think you were going to say something else, but you may have actually said what you were going to say.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
In that case, the clip show ends. We come back from commercial to Lane's room, where she is severely hooked up to the internet.
This is beyond terminally online.
Yeah, I was like, nobody can be more online than me. And then I watched the show, and I was like, never mind. There's like, I want to put a trigger warning. Like, there's some body horror. Like, she's plugging this thing directly into herself.
I don't feel like she's like piercing the skin. She has like a clip that she is attached to her lower lip, which I think is the most noticeable thing. But she's not like jamming USB cords into her ear or anything,
Yeah.
or like running it through her body. It's a disturbing sight, but it's not very gory. It just looks really really bad. She's not looking great. Deus manifests in Lane's room, and it describes what happened before the commercial break as Lane running an emulator in her brain, which is just an absurd visual to me. She's just running BizHawk in her brain.
I mean, and it's not even like it's gonna get rid of emulator lag. She's never gonna get those timed hits in Mother 3 in her own brain.
Never gonna refer to like every time I remember playing a video game, I'm gonna describe it as running an emulator in my brain from now on. Also, I said BizHawk, but if she was emulating another computer, so to be closer to a virtual machine. She's running Windows 95 in her brain.
Lol.
Alice, I don't know if you or if any of our viewers have seen Chip Cheesum's Windows 95 streams, but that's all I could think of. She's just drawing shitty OCs in MS Paint. She's playing midis.
I have not, but that sounds
That's what the
beautiful.
song should have been. It should have been a midi.
God, it should have been.
It's an 11-minute midi on broadcast television.
Instead of a 10-minute long Stevie Ray Vaughan solo that goes horribly wrong. This is what actually, you know what?
It's
This is
just
what happens when you have ego death somewhere in the middle of My Sweet Little Thing, or like Texas Flood. She's my pride, and then somewhere in there you just like stop experiencing subjectivity.
she's my. During the conversation, Davis refers to Lane as a machine again, and Lane says, "Don't call me that. I'm not a machine." And Davis says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're not a machine. You're software. You're an executable program with a body."
See,
I just really like this exchange. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, see, that's much like nicer.
Yeah, like what the fuck, Davis? I like this exchange because he's pretending to be polite, but I don't believe that even he thinks he's really being polite. Sometimes you get people like that who are genuinely in their own mind think that they're trying to say the right thing, but you just hear what they're saying. It's like, just shut up at this point. You clearly can't figure it out. Please stop talking. But I think he's being a dick on purpose. Let's see. After the scene, we cut to Lane walking the streets. The power lines continue to hum until Lane yells at them. After she yells at them, she looks over to her right and sees one of the shadow creatures from Eco from the second episode, I think.
Mm.
Starts off crouching and then just contorts itself into a standing position and walks across the road. As it crosses like line of sight with Lain, um, Chisa appears behind it, like a wipe transition with Chisa. For the first time in the episode that's not a flashback, Lain smiles and greets Chisa in a familiar way. In the Japanese dub, she says Chisa-chan, and in the English dub, she says "Hey Chisa" while smiling, because of lip flaps, probably. Lain asks if Chisa remembers her from the time they walked home together. She says that she understands what Chisa told her. Now, I think Lain is referring to the email, but there is a chance that Chisa said something on that walk, because the two of them walked home together once and then both never forgot each other. So, is this scene trying to imply that Chisa brought up the idea of not needing a body during their first meeting? Because I'm trying to think back to the first episode. Lain doesn't really react to all of Chisa's talk about being on the wired and no longer having a body. She only reacts to God being online. So at the time, I think we all thought, like, oh, Lain just doesn't react to anything. But, like, did she expect this?
Just first meeting.
How
Hey,
deep do these machinations go?
You know, like I
You ever.
remember, I remember when you were saying, Jenner, about like you were kind of speculating that they did in fact know each other, and watching that whole this whole sequence, I can't help but to kind of agree with you. It
Yeah.
does feel like there's something there beyond just that email to their interactions that is informing all of this.
Yeah, in the English, when Lane speaks to Chisa, she does again bring up we walked to school that one time. Um, I still don't think that means we've only walked to school together one time. I think she's referring to a specific of time that they walked to school together. Like, hey, I saw you at the subway that one time, and they had like an interaction that one time, and that one time means something, like has some significance, and it's not actually remarking on we have only walked one time, but remember that special time we walked together. Japanese language is often like that, where like they just context is assumed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I could buy that interpretation. I just. Listen, Lain is very obtuse. I'm going to come to the wrong conclusions several times
mhm.
before I get to the right ones. If I ever get to the right ones. Because, like, the first time we brought this up, I was very adamant. Like, no, once means once. But, like, thinking about it, yeah, they could just be referring to that to a single particular time.
And they could have said anything to each other, and it could have been a big old relationship, or it could have been something she said resonated, and we just. I think us not being able to know is part of the point.
Yeah, it's
This
maddening.
kind of like never having the whole all the information is kind of just how Lane works. Kind of like
No answers for anyone.
it's this show is the experience of getting onto Twitter mid main character moment of the day and not knowing what the fuck is happening.
This is what happened to me when Bean Dad happened a year after I deleted my Twitter, and nobody would tell me what the fuck was going on. I just had to reverse engineer it from all the memes. Lane says that she understands what Chisa said. Chisa does not seem happy to hear that. She doesn't say anything, but she does frown. At this point, the gunman from the club enters the scene. So, first time this guy showed up in the English dub, I swore up and down it was Spike Spencer. It's not Spike Spencer. It is a guy named Sid Fontana. I think he was using a pseudonym for this project, and I think his real name was Sid Fontana. If it's not, then that's the pseudonym. I just don't know how to feel about the fact that there is a man out there who sounds like a pitch shifted Spike Spencer. There's no way for me to test this, but I feel like if I showed this clip to Spike Spencer, he'd be like, "Yeah, that sounds like me, but I don't remember doing that." Uh, but for the important thing that he does, he says that it's easy to die, right, Ling? Chisa disagrees, says there's nothing easy about dying. The
I
gunman
agree with
disagrees
Cheetah.
back.
I agree with her. I agree with Chisa.
Yep, I also agree with Chisa. The gunman says, "No, dying's easy. Lane, you already have the tool for it." And like fucking like the end of Fight Club, Lane already has the gun in her hand. The gunman describes how to use the gun to commit suicide, and the he decides to be a casual misogynist during this. So glad he's dead. But I was debating whether or not to get into this. Spoilers for the Lane video game. My video editing software license expired, so I actually don't know if I'll be able to put up a timestamp. But sorry. Uh, if I can, I will. What he describes is how Lane actually does die at the end of the Serial Experiments Lane video game. The game was in development at the time, so they probably knew that. I don't know if it's just like there's only so many ways to describe this situation, or if it was an intentional decision. Keep things consistent across media. When Lane does, she doesn't say anything, but she doesn't do anything either. And the gunman says, "That's not fair. You brought me here, remember?" Is just this whole conversation is so fucking weird, so uncomfortable. I don't like how casual this guy is being.
I,
I think the first time I watched this scene, I laughed when he said that. It's just like, "Oh, you'll kill me? Fuck you."
it's just so unsettling.
Yeah, I nervous laughed at this. He says that bodies are useless. Lane emphatically disagrees, and when she does this, the background changes drastically. I think this is supposed to be the border between the real world and the wire breaking down.
Mhm.
It wasn't 100% clear to me. Lane later says that happened at some point, and I guess this is it. This is what it looks like. Just the fucking pylon from StarCraft shows up in the background, and now the internet's in the real world. If they really wanted to show that the internet invaded real life, they should like had Lane look over at a cat, and the cat looks at her and says, "I can has cheeseburger."
Oh no.
Better yet, just the cat has a cheeseburger, and they don't even have to say it. You just know the ancient
Yeah.
call has been answered.
He has obtained it at
Cat
last.
has.
God, this was 99. Like, what memes existed in 98, 99? Because even like cheeseburger was early 2000s. Fuck, over 9,000 wouldn't even have been a meme yet.
I mean, they had
We're talking prehistoric memes.
We
I
have
mean,
all
they
your what pre? Fuck you. All
they
your
had
base.
Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, all your base. Crazy Frog, Hamsterdams. Yeah.
I think Hamster Dance was also early 2000s.
No,
I
Hamsterdams
think
was
that was
90s.
2003.
No.
Limp Bizkit is just a walking meme. You're right, Alice.
Ugh.
You could call him the Walking Dead.
I do like the idea though of like Lane looks over and just sees the hamsters from the Hamster Dance video dancing at her. No. But yeah, this is trying to be dramatic, not stupid, so they didn't want to put memes in real life. We then cut to Alice's room. Where only good things have happened so far. Alice is not in a video call. She's gotten a video message from Jury, who is trying to set Alice up with Jury's friend. For some reason, I thought he was her cousin, but when I checked again, there wasn't any mention of that. So I guess I just invented that. That's a weird thing for my mind to invent. And this is where we got to talk again because the jury says it will stop the lies about her and the teacher, and Alice says that it's not a lie.
And then the worst thing that's ever happened to me happens.
So remember a few episodes back.
Tell them what it is,
Yeah,
Luca.
we'll talk about that.
Okay, but we
What?
have to. We can talk about the message first, but then we have to talk about the worst thing that's ever happened.
Go on.
Yeah, so a couple of episodes, I was really, really emphatic that Alice and her teacher were not in a relationship. It was just a crush that Alice had that manifested as like actual lusting and stuff of that nature. But this line of "it's not a lie" has led a lot of fans to believe that her and the teacher actually were in a relationship. I think it's genuinely ambiguous. I still think that could refer to the like if the rumor is just that Alice wants to sleep with the teacher, then that rumor could be true and still hasn't happened yet, and hopefully will never happen. But if the rumor is that the teacher is dating a student, and Alice says that's not a lie, then the two of them are in a relationship. I think the way Alice acts, it implies that she's not actually in a relationship with him. But I get why people think otherwise, and I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong because fucking all fiction is inherently subjective to a degree, and Lain even more so. So it's not really worth fighting over. Anyways, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Alice, do you want to describe the scene to get the point across?
The only way I can describe this to you, and I will, and describe it to you, whether you want me to or not, it's happening.
Amazing.
There was a voice, and it's Lane's voice, and Alice looks up, and you expect to see Lain. What you see is a terrible, badly drawn gray hand clutching the inside of the door, and a bizarre foot-like appendage also sticking out. And the gray hand is attached to an arm that seems to also be gray, wreathed in red and green sleeves, like some kind of horrible Santa's elf zombie. It is disproportionately. The body is the wrong size and shape. It is too short, and the legs on those arms are obscenely too long. Every tiny detail is so bad that it gives me anxiety to look at this still image, and it seems to have Lane's face as it tells her, I didn't do it, I didn't look at your secrets. And I don't care that you didn't look at the secrets, Lane. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you became a horrible goblin. But literally.
You remember that alien a few episodes ago? What if it got worse?
It's the
Hit
worst
me.
thing that's ever happened to me.
My favorite description of this scene is either the alien has Lane's head or Lane has the alien's body, and the implications of that are wild.
Roswell Lane.
Yeah, I mentioned when we first saw this alien, when it did not have Lane's face, that I fucking hate it. It's the worst goddamn thing in the show. I had nightmares about it when I first watched the show. Um, I sleep with the door to my room closed, and I have more than once had a nightmare about it being opened by somebody. And I wake up every time because I'm worried I'm going to see that fucking alien again. So I'm glad that somebody else also goddamn hates this stupid, awful fucking alien.
Yeah,
God.
I noticed it was the alien, and I was like, I don't know about this.
But then it was Lane, just to double confuse you. I should point out at this point one of the I feel like Lane can't have fringe theories, but if it did, one of the fringe theories would be that Lane is an alien. It might be entirely because people see this scene and go, you know what, fuck it, Lane's an alien. Why the hell not? But yeah, in response to Lane saying that she didn't send out the secrets, Alice says, it was you, Lane. I saw you. And Lane said, that wasn't me. It looks like I'm not the only me. Some other me must have done it. Alice says, what are you talking about? And Lane says, you might not be the only Alice either. And that you could just see Alice's blood running cold, just stopping dead in her veins at the thought.
Why does she look like that? Why are her fingers so long?
This is what aliens look like. As to why she's an alien, I don't know. Lane goes on to say, no matter how often I say I didn't do it, you'll believe that I did. So I'll make it that it never happened. And I've been working day and night to do just that. She says that last sentence with a smile, and I like it, but it's also just like, haha, Lane, what the fuck did you do? Alice asks for clarification on that, and Lane says, I don't need devices anymore. It looks like I've already destroyed the border between the wired and reality. I can go any place I want to now, so I came here. I should be able to undo something that's happened. And then she leaves. Alice collapses into herself and starts crying, repeatedly saying that she's scared.
Mm.
And I assume that real life Alice also did that, based on
Same.
how she is yelling about Lane. I'm sorry that I'm laughing. Like, it actually sucks that this fucked you up so much. But it's just the energy you're bringing is making me want to laugh.
I know why God doesn't talk to us anymore. It's because of this.
Do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created?
It's just literally that. God, what have we done?
The entirety of Spy Kids 2 exists only to get Steve Buscemi to deliver that one line. I will hear no other explanations.
I mean, what other part of the movie is worthwhile?
None. Literally none.
Exactly. Somebody just fucking came
Uh,
in, said that line, and then were like, shit, well, unfortunately, we have to make another Spy Kids around this. Why is this conceit? I don't know.
I'm still so overwhelmed by the fact that it's like, do you think God stays in heaven because he is too is afraid of what he's created came from that fucking movie?
it's just like okay, we're talking about this scene that I swear we'll get back to Lain. I really want to know what the writer's room was doing when they made this line. Because like I can follow the line of logic. I follow the line of logic. Like they need to demonstrate like why this guy hasn't left his safe house on this island filled with monsters that he's created. So he explains, like, well, they're terrifying. Have you seen them? And then just to drive the point home, we should have him say something else. Oh, I know. He should say, do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created? Like, what the hell? Like, and they wrote that. They didn't just go, like, Johnny, this is for 12-year-olds. They wrote it. They put it in there. Anyways.
Honestly, I think I still believe that he improvised that line, and then when they were going to edit it out, he told them that if they edited any part of it out, he was walking. He knew what he was doing.
I'm gonna feel like such a dumbass if it comes out that that's like a fucking quote from somewhere else that they like the Spy Kids writers were quoting it. I feel like it would have come out by this point if that's what it was, but I really just want to live in the world where Spy Kids 2 has this absurd line, just a whole cloth invented by them. Anyways, last scene of the episode. We cut outside the school. Alice arrives and is met by Rika and Jury. Alice says that she can't meet with the person Jury tries to set her up with, and Jury has no idea what she's talking about. The teacher shows up, and Jury and Reika talk about him dating a God. They say eighth grader, right?
I think so, yeah.
Or seventh. It's whatever class they're in. I can't remember which exact class, but a fucking child. Like a. They're so cavalier about this. I hate this. Alice goes to talk about the teacher, presumably to say, really like trying to figure out what they heard about her. The two of them react weirdly, like they have no idea what she's talking about. Jury, no, Reika says, "It sounds like you're going to tell us you have a crush on him." And Jury says, "Well, if that's what you're going to say, I'm sorry, but you're too late. He already has a girlfriend." Not mentioning that the girlfriend is a fucking child, unless he has an adult girlfriend and is cheating on her with a child. I want this man to get run over with his own fucking car. He has had no lines of dialogue, and he is my least favorite character in this whole
God,
show.
everything about it is terrible.
Alice starts to realize. I don't know if she realizes exactly what happened, but she's able to put some things together in her head as she turns around and sees Lain. Lain stares at her blankly and then smiles with evil Lain's smile. Alice says, "Lain, you smiled at me." And the episode ends. Everybody's memory's been erased and you're smiling. Alright, so that's the episode.
Yep. Alright.
Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, but give me a second. I need to get to my notes.
Um, I feel like I said everything I wanted to say during the recap. There's nothing that really required me to summarize my thoughts again at the end. This is a very well done clip show episode because not only did they put important stuff in it, they justified the existence of the clip show. Like, Lain does what she does in the second half because she was going through her memories in the first half.
Yeah. Alright. The thing I wanted to say is this episode actually made me think of The Third Wish, a lore thing from Planescape, which is a Dungeons and Dragons setting. The story goes like this. An elderly man was sitting alone on a dark path. He wasn't certain which direction to go, and he'd forgotten both where he was traveling to and who he was. He'd sat down for a moment to rest his weary legs, and suddenly looked up to see an elderly woman standing before him. She grinned toothlessly, and with a cackle asked, "Okay, now your third wish. What will it be? And the man replied, third wish, and he was baffled. How can it be a third wish if I hadn't had a first or a second wish? You've had two wishes already, the hag replied, but your second wish was for me to return everything to the way it was before you had made your first wish. That's why you remember nothing, because everything is the way it was before you made any wishes. She cackled at the poor Burke. So, it is that you have one wish left. All right, said the man. I don't believe this, but there's no harm in wishing. I wish to know who I am. Funny, said the old woman as she granted his wish and disappeared forever. That was your first wish.
I actually remember that
Fuck.
bit. How do I know that? Was that in Torment?
Yeah, it was in Torment.
That's why.
Uh, I was gonna say don't spoil Torment, but you know what? I've had that on the back burner for like a fucking
Oh,
decade
it
now.
doesn't spoil.
I have it coming. If you want to spoil, okay.
Trust me, that's not gonna.
If
You're
you
not.
do want to spoil Torment, I've had it coming. I've had plenty of time.
Actually, okay. As a, this is actually a relevant time to say this. Up to having seen up to episode 11, if you like Lain and you have not played Planescape Torment, you will probably like Planescape Torment.
If you like Lain, you can't not like Planescape Torment. Somebody scolded me for spoiling Chrono Cross 2 days ago. Speaking of games that we've had decades to play.
Well, I meant like me personally. Like, if I'd heard about Planescape last week, I would be like, don't spoil it. I want to play that. I only learned about it last week.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned about it like before I started college,
Mm-hmm.
and I never got around to playing it. I bought it on Good Old Games. I've had it for years. I just haven't sat down and played it. That's my.
Play up.
I will say that like
I know that there is a comic relief. There is a comic relief skull voiced by Rob Paulson, and he's probably going to be my favorite character because I like Rob Paulson.
yeah, I will say that like the like you've probably played like Pillars of Eternity or Divinity or things like that. RPG systems where like the combat system isn't so clunky. So Planescape's age is you're gonna feel it, but the writing is still phenomenal. Just yeah, the world is
Yeah, I
just
believe that.
gorgeous. Anyway, I just bring that up because like this is a monkey's paw situation. Probably this is what I'm predicting. Right? It's like turning everything back to the way it was and making everybody forget everything. That's gonna have some serious consequences, and I'm not looking forward to seeing that. And y'all know I've played like a character that time travels in the past, and my opinions about going back and changing everything, and that you really shouldn't because like you wouldn't be the same person without all those things happening to you. And I have like a really strong opinion about this in that I really do think that suffering is too valorized, right? And that we think that, oh, all these horrible things that have happened to us are what make me who I am. Yes, but also the good things that happen to you are also what make you who you are. And you giving only the bad things all the fucking credit is one of the reasons why, like, it's one of the reasons I feel like a lot of people are just depressed. It's like, they completely ignore all the good things that happen to them. And I'm not saying that, like, you need the bad to have the good, but I am saying that the good exists, and if you change the bad, you might lose some of the good, and if you change, and it just, getting rid of the good is a bad thing, period. So forgetting everything removes the good, too.
The thing that most people fail to realize about cause and effect, especially when it comes to, like, personality and things like that, is that there are a shit ton of causes and a shit ton of effects, like, every second.
Mm-hmm. Right now, I am biting my fingernails. I do this all the time. I'm going to bite them down so low that my fingernails are going to hurt for a couple weeks. And I've never been able to stop. There is a cause and there is an effect. Anyway, back to you. Sorry.
The reason I was, like, thinking about this, when people, like, decide whether or not to like a work of fiction, like, there are thousands of things firing through their head whether they realize it or not. They, like, it does this, I'm just gonna keep saying game because I was thinking about games. Like, does this game play like other games that I like? Does it remind me of things that I like, or does it remind me of things that I don't like? Does it, like, force me to remember things that I would really rather forget? There's so many things that go through your mind, and the internet tries to reduce it like, are you smart enough to like this game?
I hate that, like when people
So many.
critique Elon Musk or Jordan Peterson. It's like, you're just not smart enough to get what he's saying. He's like, no, he's not saying anything worthwhile.
Yeah, like, there's so many factors at play for whether a person likes something or not, and intelligence really has the least bearing on it, if any bearing at all. I feel like it's impossible to be too smart to like something. My go-to example, like, I'm an attorney, I've been sworn in, I literally practice law in the state of Indiana, and I still love Phoenix Wright. Yeah, I know it doesn't match up with the law of the United States, but one, it wasn't supposed to. Two, that would be boring. They changed the way the law works to make the game more fun. I can appreciate that and still like it as a game, and like the weird times where it does line up with the actual um, criminal justice system or its culture.
I think like I maybe in either privately with all of you or even in this podcast I've actually mentioned and dunked on Cinema Sins, where it finds like those little inconsistencies and like gives it a red flag if it's like a big like media sin, and it's just like it gets on my nerves. Not that I don't do it sometimes myself, but like at some point just like let it go.
It doesn't even seem like they're having fun.
Yeah.
Is one of the many bad things about Cinema Sins. It's like you're not even having fun nitpicking this. Why are you doing this?
So getting back to Lain, that's the big thing I wanted to like.
Mm-hmm.
There's two big things I wanted to talk about.
Let's get Cinema Sins guy to watch Lain, and he'll fucking die.
Jeez. But yeah, I just like. There's no way this is going to. I have very little faith that this is going to go any kind of way, good for Lain, because, like, these like the things that happen to you, good and bad, are why you are the way you are now. And you cease being the person you are without those experiences. Changing those experiences changes you. We learn from things in that way. And again, getting rid of the bad also means getting rid of the good. You can't cherry pick, or it doesn't seem like she was able to cherry pick this kind of stuff, right? So, and like, that means like Alice is probably going to forget about her. And she might forget about,
well, I was
and
going
like
to say,
all the fragments of her, because that's our theory right now, right? Are also going to forget about her. She's literally going to forget about herself and just be caught like a fragment of a person.
Oh, don't tell me that.
I mean, that's just a theory. I haven't watched the show, but that's what I'm theorizing right now.
I was going to say, like, you talk about Alice forgetting. She hasn't touched Alice's memories. Alice still remembers everything that happened.
So far.
Yeah, so far.
Well, like, do you think this is a ripple effect thing? Do you think it's going to take time to get to Alice?
I wonder, like, she said that she's going to make them forget everything. So I guess the plan is only her and Alice get to remember everything. And that just, like, that's just,
because
like,
otherwise Alice
sounds,
won't know that Lain did anything.
Yeah, that's, like, horrifying for Alice. Both our show Alice and that show Alice.
It's kind of one of those things where, like, having done this, there is no version of her doing this that doesn't go wrong in some way. Because even if Alice is fine, how are you going to ever be okay again with your friend after she rewrites reality? How are you going to trust what's around you knowing that Lain can rewrite reality? Even if you don't think she would do it, it makes a lot of, like, it just adds a bunch of weird shit.
You know how, like, we were, like, talking about the unhealthy power dynamic a teacher has over a student and how teachers shouldn't get in relationships with students?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the unhealthy power dynamic between a person who is effectively God and a regular person.
So what you're saying is Alice should be into this.
Yeah. I'm not trying to kick shame or everything. Exactly. If any of the implications that this show has made about Alice in the show are true, then Alice should be into this.
What we're also saying is you're next, Madoka. You're toxic, actually.
Madoka's over party. Sorry.
Alright, yeah, two things I wanted to mention. The first thing I wanted to say of just, like, trying to remove something and that'll fix everything, like, again, cause and effect is such a complex thing. We have no idea Like, there's a reason that like the Laplace's demon thought experiment exists. Like, if you know everything that's happening right now, you'd have to know everything that happened in the past and everything that's going to happen in the future, because that's just how absurd cause and effect is. Fefner, I know you're going to get mad at me, but like, the butterfly effect caught on because it's so impossible to predict what's going to happen if you
Well,
change one tiny
I'm
thing.
fine with the butterfly effect conceptually, but what the
You
fuck?
just
Why a
hate the
single
name.
butterfly? That story's garbage.
A butterfly flew in front of my face and now I'm racist.
Killed one butterfly
That
and
would be
suddenly
more believable.
fascism is here.
I think that was a Simpsons episode.
That's how that works, right?
Now,
Is
you
it
might think,
not?
hey, killing one butterfly is bad, so is stepping on the grass bad because that grass wasn't supposed to be stepped on? Shut up. No, butterfly.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was a monarch butterfly. It had it coming.
Wow.
Um, but I was gonna say about the inability to deal with a godlike person. Um, I read Infinity Gauntlet a couple of years ago, and I reread it again recently. Infinity Gauntlet is the comic series that uh, Infinity War was very loosely based on. It's the comic of Thanos with all the Infinity Gems, and he does shit. It's where he kills half the sentient creatures in the universe by snapping his fingers. Um, that's not is that feature is very blah. There is a large crossover that happens in that comic, but the comic is not really a crossover comic. It's about a single character called Adam Warlock, who is not very well known, and I'm not going to explain who he is. But that the comic ends with him getting the Infinity Gauntlet and becoming a god. And when everybody like says like, "What right do you have to say that?" He says, "I have the right of possession." He doesn't give an explanation for why he should have it. He just says, "I have it, and I'm not giving it up, and you can't take it from me."
I mean,
Finders keepers, nah nah nah.
possession's only nine
This
tenths of
does
the
not
law.
go
Hey,
well.
hey, hey! Possession's only 9/10 of the law. That means it's 1/10 mine.
I'm sorry, I was about to go off on a rant of why that phrase exists. The point of that saying is that if somebody has a hold of something, odds are it's because it's theirs. You'd have to prove otherwise. If you can prove otherwise, then you can take it from them legally. That's the point of the phrase. Anyways, I'm not gonna. I was describing something else. I'm not gonna get bogged down. But like, there are obviously comics that happen after that. But the end of the Infinity Gauntlet like arc is like Adam trying to uh, come to grips with the fact that he is a god and now he can't really talk to anybody on an even playing field anymore. The last conversation is between him and Thanos, who has like retired from being a scumbag and has become a farmer instead. The last line of that comic after their conversation is Thanos saying like, "You know, Warlock, between the two of us, I think I came out on top because I don't have to be a god anymore." I'm describing it very poorly, but I really like Infinity Gauntlet, and I would actually recommend reading it. But
I am curious, actually, from you saying
like the
that.
point of this, say that again.
Oh, I
We're
said that
talking over
sounds
me.
really that actually sounds like pretty interesting, actually.
Adam Warlock in general is like a philosopher type, and when he's written well, it's interesting. But yeah, like the point of all this is that like Lain is about to learn this lesson the hard way, that nobody can interact with her anymore because not only is she a god, she is flaunting the fact that she is a god.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was the last thing that I wanted to mention.
I wanted to talk seriously about how dying is not easy at all. But I actually think I already had this rant, and I wanted.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be possible to follow up this rant. I wanted to go over it a little bit more again, but I'd like people to do funny stuff first before I kill the entire mood. If anybody has any funny stuff to do.
I mean, I don't have anything funny,
Um,
but I guess my last thoughts on the episode are there are two lanes
well,
inside
I
of you.
don't.
One wants to seriously analyze her life. The other just wants to fuck shit up.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything besides our ending bits. So if you want that to be an ending bit, then wait. But if you want to do it before the ending bit, then do it.
No, this is too serious. I mean, y'all know, and I think I've talked on this
All right.
podcast before, right? That I have
Yeah,
chronic.
if people want to
Yeah.
hear
Yeah, trigger warning. I'm going to be
your
talking a
thoughts,
little
they
bit.
can.
Yeah, I'm just going to make it short. I promise. I've got chronic severe suicidal ideation, and it's bad. And I've lost, the love of my life to suicide. So dying is not easy. It leaves broken people behind. That's that's just the way of it. It's not easy at all for anybody. You might think that you doing it ends the suffering. Um, might even think it ends your suffering, but the people that you leave behind wanted you here, and they still want you here. And there's nothing easy about dying. And look ahead to go to the bathroom. So while Luca's in the bathroom, hey Alice, our friend
Hello.
Alice, what are your feelings about show Alice this episode? As a foremost Alice expert.
Alice has had a very bad time. Like, her friend was having trouble, and then when she tried to do something about it, not only did it go horribly wrong, but then that friend seems to have betrayed her and violated her privacy in something that she desperately did not want to share with the world. And then speak something wearing her friend's face rewrites reality, claiming it is for her benefit. Alice has had a bad time, and I feel bad for her.
Alice
Yeah,
has been
that's
like a really good friend to Lain for the most part. Like she's messed up a little bit, like, but nobody's perfect. Whereas
she's like
Lain,
slightly pushy. It's
yeah,
like
she's
the
been,
most forgivable
yeah,
mistake you could ever
it's
make.
not anything, and she's a teenager. It's not anything they couldn't reconcile with like some talking. Whereas Lain is just at this point
Like,
crossed so many lines, and it's just not okay.
these are the risks of trying to bring the one quiet kid kicking and screaming into the sociable world. They don't know how to be sociable, and you're gonna find out every mistake they make. But yes, I believe that means it's now time for. I don't think it's anyone's favorite bit, but it's a bit. What's the plot? Where I ask our co-hosts what they think the plot of Serial Experiments Lane is. To start, Alice, what do you think the plot is?
I think the plot is. I've talked a lot about how I think it's Lane becoming a god, and I'm not sure that I'm off
Become as
base,
God.
but
Become as God.
become as god. I think that the plot of this episode is that Lane is about to the Lane decides that it's more important to her to not feel like her friend hates her than really to be did anything else. And that's very important. It's important enough to rewrite everything. And she's gonna have some consequences about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing this is a Japanese anime. Japanese anime people know how to take care of villains who become God.
Oh god, you're right. Oh my god, she's gonna die in a JRPG now.
Yeah.
She's gonna have forms. Get ready for Lane's second form. Fafnir, what do you think the plot is?
Plot is fucking God's fake, and Lane is having a very bad time, as are all the people around her. She is trying desperately to have an actual relationship. She just lost her family, who wasn't actually her family. But maybe she can have a friend? Maybe? Come on. Just one.
Just one.
As a treat.
Lane can have little a friend as a treat. Alright, Jenner, what do you think the plot is?
This episode is a slice of life episode about the importance of clip shows in extending out the profitability of your product.
You laugh, but honestly, she's right.
No, I'm just baffled because you could have got into, the normal sitcom style of like there are consequences for your actions. You can't just, wipe away everything that you've done and expect it to be all
I
good, but
already
instead
did
you zagged
that.
on
I
me.
already did that.
Well, excuse me, it's been a month since we recorded last episode, and like 6 months since we started, or 4 months since we started this podcast. I can't remember everything we talked about anymore. My mind is a steel trap that has been rusted shut. All right, but I think that does it for this week's episode. Next week we will cover Layer 12. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
So